What's up, everybody? Fear does not exist in this dojo.
It does not. How cool is this right now?
We're here with the real Karate Kid.
Where?
There.
Yes, we know.
Ralph who?
Right?
No, Ralph wishes he could be here, but he was here last year, so we're gonna fill in for him.
And that is not a bad thing at all. Before you guys got in here, I was talking to the crowd a bit about this series and how it took off. This was a bit of a sleeper hit. They kind of took everybody by surprise.
Yeah, the show?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think people, when you heard about it, was thinking, is this going to be any good, or is this going to be, not so great? And we stepped into it, Ralph and I originally, and Marty came in at season 10, episode 10. But, we cared about it like you cared about it, even more. We are these guys, and Karate Kid is a sacred film, and it holds a special part of people's hearts. So if we're going to do this, it has to be done right. So we stepped into it with our hearts. We trusted our amazing writers, the guys that created the show, Josh, John, and Hayden, who are huge, mega Karate Kid fans. They're like, it was their Star Wars, for me. Star Wars is my thing, and Karate Kid was their thing, and they're just super talented. They got a lot of heart. All the heart you see in the show came from them first, and all the badassery came from them first, And, I work with Josh Heald, who was one of the creators on Hot Tub Time Machine. He wrote that, and then the other guys wrote the Harold and Kumar franchise. And I knew them all, so I always wanted to work with them. They called me one day and said, come to have lunch, we want to talk to you about a project. And so I thought it was either Harold and Kumar 6 or Hot Tub 5. And then they said, so sit down, we're huge fans, and what do you think about playing Johnny Lawrence again? And I said, well, it was like a girlfriend coming back saying, I love you after 30 years. It's like, what? I mean, think about that, So I said, well, then they told me their idea, and I said, well, you can't just go and do a Karate Kid sequel. You have to there's a lot of people who have to sign off on this, a lot of rights to get. So I said, well, we have Sony on board, and Jerry Weintraub's estate sign off, and Overbrook, Will Smith's company, everybody was already on board at that point. So they said, we just got to get you, and then we're going to write it. And I said, well, what's the next step after me? And they said, we have to go get Ralph Macchio. And I said, okay, good luck with that. So they went to New York the next couple days and had a meeting with him. Ralph called me, and I answered the phone. I said, I was expecting this call. And he said, man, all right, we got to look into this. So we stepped into it. The long answer to that comment was, we both stepped into it very carefully with our eyes wide open, and these guys killed it, and we just jumped in, and now here we are, season 2, season 3's coming, and it's for you guys, it's awesome, I mean, you guys are all the grown-up kids, so many of the adults in this room, you guys were like, in the movie theaters when they came out. It's unbelievable, and now your kids are here, and so we're like all a part of this together, so it's an honor, and we thank you. We wouldn't be here without you guys, so thanks.
Now, we've got a full house here. I want to let you both know we vetted the room. Everyone's seen both seasons, so there's no fear of spoilers at all for anyone. So it could be quite the free-for-all for you. I don't want to take up any time of theirs or yours, so I won't bother with any of my questions. But I know there's a lot of questions in the crowd here. So who's got a first question they want to do here? All right, go ahead. Stand up for us.
Okay. Thanks for coming. One of the great episodes in the second season is episode 6, where you bring all the old Cobra Kai.
Yeah.
Very emotional time. What I wanted to know, I think you guys mentioned that Dutch was in prison. Is there a conflict in the schedule?
Yeah, he was in prison for real. I hope Chad's watching this. Chad McQueen played Dutch. No, Chad is, he was McQueen, Steve McQueen's son, and he runs the Steve McQueen racing team. So he had a conflict of scheduling. We couldn't get him, but he was just the best. Maybe we'll get him sometime in the future. I'd love to have him back. He's amazing. It was great to work with the guys again. Rob Garrison, Ron Thomas, Tony O'Dell, the original 3 of the Cobra Kais. And we're all brothers ever since the movie. We still hang out. Rob comes and stays at my house. We have barbecues. It's like, You know, we're like it's like an old, you know, high school friends or college friends, you know. And so to get to go out and put on our headbands or whatever, again, you know, ride the motorcycle was awesome.
All right, well, speaking of headbands in Cobra Kai, we got a question over here from the little man.
There's the little Cobra Kai.
Come on up, little Cobra Kai.
This is for you, Johnny.
Uh-huh.
How does it feel to being the bad guy back in Karate Kid, but now in the new series, the good guy? And what about you?
What a cool dude.
But what's your question for Kreese?
You are supposed to be the good guy in the Cobra Kai.
Now, you have to understand that my character is not a bad guy. He's
All the great heroes, Darth Vader, Hannibal Lecter, and John Kreese.
No, you have to understand. Let me finish. You have to understand that he just misunderstood. You know, John Kreese just, you know, two things he loves in his life more than anything else. Number two actually is Johnny Lawrence. Number one is Cobra Kai. So Johnny got a little mixed up with, you know, the integrity of Cobra Kai, and I needed to help him out. And just, you know, set him straight, because he does have the potential to be Cobra Kai, and of course he is the Karate Kid. So I knew that, and I just stepped in to help a little bit, but he's not a bad guy.
Yeah.
Good question, brother. Good question.
Can we sweep the leg? Last year, the Danielson did the crane kick with me, so.
Oh, he did?
Yes.
In a
Can you sweep the leg?
I doubt he did a crane kick with you, but
You got the pose.
yeah. We'll sweep some legs after, okay? Not right now. But that's a great question. How old are you? 8. You got a good dad.
Yeah, man. We got another one. Oh, right in the back there. Green, I'll come up to you guys. What do you got, brother? Come on up.
Say that again a little louder.
Did you actually dodge? Yeah.
Did you actually punch the glass when Miyagi dodged the punches?
In the car when you put your hand through the window.
Oh.
Did you actually hit the glass?
Oh, yes, right, yeah. Oh, that was an interesting story. The special effects men kept, you know, lunge and punch, lunge, punch, and the glass never broke. So he promised me that it would break this time in the 5th take. And sure enough, I didn't believe him, so I just punched. I didn't lunge, because if I would have lunged, it would have gone all the way up. Bottom line was, it didn't break, and my hand went through it. And when I came out, there were shards of glass all sticking in the hand. And they taped me up, and then we did it one more time, and he swore it would break, because it's supposed to shatter an inch before you reach it, in the special effect of gunpowder lining the bottom of the door, or the top of the door, bottom of the glass. And bottom line is, it didn't. Even after I was taped up with new skin and all. So I turned to the director and I said to John Avildsen, I said, you know, John, this is not the hand of Arnold in The Terminator. And he says, okay, that's a wrap. So we used that scene whenever you watch the movie of me going in is real. It's real flesh. Coming out, we shot the next day, and all the blood is not my blood, thank God. And, you know, it's one of those things that just happens. It was the only time I really got hurt in the movie. Billy's gotten hurt a lot, but that was the only time I got hurt, though. But it's a good question.
Great question. All right, we got Johnny right up here. Johnny Skelton.
Can you just say all the same when he's had enough, man, real quick for me?
What's that?
All the same. Thank you.
Nailed it.
Johnny Lawrence, everybody.
We got a new stunt double.
I love season 1 and 2, but one of the most surprising parts of it for me was when Johnny said that the crane kick was illegal, and I had no idea where that came from. So I actually asked Ralph about it last year, and he said that the ref said in the movie that no kicks to the face. So I was another surprise. So I went back, watched the tournament numerous times, and I didn't hear anything about no kicks to the face. Ali says the rules in the beginning, and she didn't say anything about kicks to the face. And in fact, Johnny kicks a whole bunch of people in the face.
That's right. Yeah. Yes. It's fine if we kick in the face, but Daniel LaRusso was not allowed to kick in the face. Yeah. Yeah, there's a little gray area there in that. I think that, the music was swelling so hard in the end of the Karate Kid, even though they missed the call.
The Cobra Kai was always allowed to kick in the face.
Yeah. I mean, typically in the karate tournaments, it's no contact to the head, and especially, and usually you have pads on, so there's a little bit of a, creative license they had to let us go with no pads, but in general, if you're doing point fighting in a karate tournament, it's light contact to the body and no contact to the head. That's just kind of an understood rule. I think they say it somewhere in there, I don't know, but true. There was plenty of punches, elbows, and all kinds of things that were, equally as illegal, but none of them earned a trophy. So, there were points taken away and all that. So I think, there's definitely an argument that may have been. I don't think anybody ever saw it. I mean, first of all, that kick, the crane kick, wasn't a real kick. It is now. I think La Hoya Machida in the UFC actually made it legitimate and knocked someone out with it. But before that, it was a make-believe kick. So no one ever saw it. They probably didn't know what happened. Yeah, good question. I'm sure. Ralph would say did he say it was illegal or did he not answer that?
He said it was illegal because the ref said no.
Yes, right. Yeah. So he knows.
He knows what he did.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks, Johnny.
Great question. All right, I'll get you real quick. Come on up. Yep. Come to you guys.
Right.
Did you know when you read the original script that it was going to be that deep, or is that just something that's kind of come throughout your?
Well, reading The Karate Kid, I mean, it's really the story of a father and his, a father-son relationship, of a kid and his mentor. And so the depth was in that relationship. And it was really about, martial arts was kind of the background of it in a way, or the face of it. But it's really about humanity. And it's about a kid that didn't have a dad finding kind of a father figure and helping him overcome his obstacles, not necessarily overcoming his bully, because Johnny could say the same thing. About that. But as I go into Cobra Kai, it's, on purpose. Back in the days in the 80s, it was a little more black and white. There was a good guy and a bad guy. It was a little bit more cowboys and Indians or whatever, good and bad or whatever. Today, it's a lot more gray, areas of gray. And so it's great to peel back the layers of the characters and see really nobody's really all good and nobody's all bad. Like Kreese, what Marty said about Kreese is amazing. And what I love about the show is that each of us have our own perspective. If Ralph was here, he would argue his perspective with his whole heart. And it's all the truth, so he doesn't see himself even as a bully. And in a way, he's right, because the principles of no mercy, there's a reason for that. And because no mercy was shown, what happened at the end of season 2. So there's really, it's kind of a little bit about all of us. We all have our own points of view and in the world, and it's kind of good to find a common ground. And I believe we're going to learn a lot more about Kreese.
Yeah, you see, they have all kinds of aspirations. Our writers are so on top of it that you can bring them ideas. I brought them ideas about him being, a Army Ranger, and I met with Army Rangers and talked about, Vietnam and all. They have their own ideas about everything, and it's very rich. They're very rich. And the bottom line is that, my interpretation of Cobra Kai of karate, has always been the offensive sport, while Miyagi treated it as a defensive art. So it's like Billy says, it's like your interpretation of Cobra Kai, your interpretation of karate. And the bottom line is, Kreese is a little darker, but it's still pure. It's not a violation of any kind. He is a pure character, and I want Billy to be as pure.
Yeah. Yeah, but when we read the script, you couldn't see what was coming with that, and it was more black and white, as I said, and now it's like in all television and in movies today, it's a little bit more open-minded. You can kind of take your point of view, and we are exploring bullying and relationships and things like that. And there's a saying like behind every bully is a victim, first. So there's always a story. It doesn't give license for that person to go and bully someone else, but there's a story behind each person. If you can understand the story behind somebody else, then that's where we're going to find our common ground and our peace, instead of having all this all the time. So the show is doing that, exploring that, and I think that's what's connecting, besides the fact that it's got some badass music and some baloney and Coors Banquet. Yeah.
Awesome. Great question. Great question. All right. So I got one up front here. Was that you? You had a question? And then you'll be next, okay? And then I got you and you. Come on up. Stand up.
Has there been any discussion or thoughts of someone like Terry Silver coming back in, who I know he bought Cobra Kai for you specifically, like when they mentioned it, he bought that for you. And I was wondering when you started Cobra Kai if that was something that wasn't your rights to actually have the name Cobra Kai.
Yeah. Well, I remember, when they pitched the idea, I said, wait a minute. First of all, I can imagine Johnny going back to the snake that bit him, because Cobra Kai, he woke up at the end of the Karate Kid. So I'm like, so wait, he's going back to Cobra Kai? Why is he doing that? Well, it's this many years later. It's the only thing in his life that worked. He's going to try to apply it right, and he thinks Kreese isn't even around anymore. So he opens a dojo. But of course, I always said it's kind of like opening Pandora's box. And sure enough, he jumps out and the snake bites him by the end of season 2. Johnny's back worse off than he was in season 1. As far as Terry Silver goes, in Johnny's mind, he doesn't even know who Terry Silver is. And as far as the character coming back, anything's possible. So the guys are writing it right now, and anything in Karate Kid 1, 2, and 3, and possibly 4, I think is open. It's all the canon for the story, but the characters have to come in and land in a way that has a meaningful entrance into the show, and it's not just what we call the low-hanging fruit of, oh, there's Terry Silver, but it has to play in with it. So there's talks of, nobody's not on the table. So, but I don't actually have the real answer for that, because the guys are writing season 3 today, right now. So we don't know at all yet.
And
so
Terry Silver.
Next week I'll tell you more.
Terry Silver was an invention, because I couldn't do Karate Kid 3. I'd got this TV series called Hard Time on Planet Earth. So all of Terry Silver, everything he did in 3 was originally written for John Kreese. So there was no Terry Silver. And whether he'll be back or not, we don't know, because basically we give them notes and they throw them in the trash. So we have no idea what's coming up. But yes, as Billy said, there are characters that, I watched Deadwood, and they brought all those old characters back 13, 14 years later, and it was fascinating. And that's what we did. We had this phenomenon with people we found in all these panels, that people love the initial Karate Kid 1 movie because it triggered either they were bullied as a kid, or they had a romance that didn't work, or they were a fish out of water where they moved around a lot. And everybody identified with the writing of Robert Kamen, So we now have 3 writers that are as brilliant as Robert, And so to answer your question, there's all kinds of alternatives that can pop up, and it moves everybody. Whatever decision's made, everybody's into it,
All right. Great question. Great question. You had one there. Go ahead.
Hey guys. First of all, we both started using Coors Banquet just because of the show alone, so probably everybody.
Right. It's really just
Enjoy the apple juice. I love the apple juice as well.
You guys both look awesome. Did either of you have a martial arts background before the movies at all, or how did that come about? How easy, how difficult was that?
Yeah, I was on the beginning end of all the wave of all the karate that happened in the States, because I didn't know any karate. I was a wrestler in high school, so I was very limber and I was kind of athletic. But when I read the script, I thought, he's a black belt tournament champion and he's a motorcycle gang leader. I didn't ride a motorcycle. I didn't know a lick of karate. I'm like, there's a chance that this are happening. The last thing I did was a milk commercial, so I don't think they're going to see me as Johnny Lawrence in this thing. But then I read the ending of the script and saw when he handed him the trophy and he didn't want to sweep the leg. And I'm like, oh, so he's not all bad. But I didn't know any karate for it. We were trained for it by an amazing master, Pat Johnson, who's a legend, and he trained us really hard. We had a month of training before the film, and then every single day, 4 or 5 hours a day, 5 days a week, as much as we could when we were filming, to do the final fight in the tournament. And then that stuck, and then I trained for a while after that, and then did a couple other martial art movies. Marty and I did a couple together, Shoot Fighter, some real if you're into that. And then on and off, and I have a couple kids, they're in karate, so I started getting back into it, and then Cobra Kai rolled around, and now I'm back, yeah. It's great. If you're in martial arts, if you're not, kids, it's the greatest thing. It's a great discipline. It's great for everything. It translates in every area of your life. And you learn karate not to fight. Ever since I know karate, I've never had a problem. Before that, I had a lot of problems. No, I'm just kidding. That's not true.
I was actually training for another movie. It was a book called The Lion of Ireland, which was a book by Morgan Llewellyn about the Vikings taking over, raiding on the Irish coast. And we were training most with a karate foundation, but we were training in kendo. And we were working for about a month, 2 months to prep this movie, and then it got canceled, and a month later I got Karate Kid. So I had a foundation, but Pat Johnson worked with us all separately. He trained me separately, and Billy and the Cobra Kai separately, and then Miyagi and Ralph's separately. So we had that great mystique going on,
He's the referee in the Karate Kid, the mustache. If you don't know who Pat Johnson is, he's the guy in the center of it all. So he was there kind of making sure we didn't hit each other, really.
He was great.
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
He was actually Chuck Norris's partner in the tournament scene around the world in the 60s and 70s.
He was undefeated. He was they called him the living tree trunk. He was just a rock. And before Marty was cast, by the way, he was acting as John Kreese. So when he trained me, he would train me in character of John Kreese. And there's some stuff you could see on YouTube of that, where Pat Johnson is in the dojo barking, and he trained me with he put the impression. I really give Pat Johnson almost all the credit for Johnny Lawrence, because he broke me down and built me up and taught me to think like a fighter and look like a fighter and think like one. And I don't know, I would have been completely clueless without him, really. So he gets all the credit. He's a legend. He's awesome. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, he influenced everything. I took, putting my hands in the belt, and occasionally I watch him do this, and I took his ki-ites from him. That was his ki. He was very influential for all of us.
If I turn around, if I turn my back on him, he would literally sweep me to the ground down. He was like, I'm going to teach you 2 ways. One is Pat Johnson, and one is Sensei Kreese. And sometimes I'd get Sensei Kreese. So, yeah.
Awesome. So we're going right back there. Go ahead, stand up.
I'm sorry. What did I get here?
But was it hard to kind of get back into that mindset, that feeling that you had when you played Johnny and you played Kreese, or was it kind of like putting on a good old comfortable pair of shoes? Did you feel it right away, or did you kind of have, this is crazy, first of all.
Yeah.
These years later, I'm going back and play the same character, or was it more fresh because it was a totally new, fresh idea?
It was both. It was like getting in the shoes that felt comfortable. It was also a lot of life that's happened since Karate Kid to now. So it's not like we went back to do a sequel from that day. So Johnny, in many ways, just like we all are, you're different than you were in high school. You're not the same person. So Johnny's not the same person. He's grown, he's evolved. Maybe he's degenerated a little bit. He's gone backwards, he's stuck in the past. He's a bit of a fossil, but all that stuff is super fun. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you couldn't go. Yeah, it had to be that. I told him, I said, listen, if you're going to just make him set up to go down again, I don't want anything to do with it, I don't want to double down on his jerkness. Huh?
Was it the same with you, Martin? Did you feel like, do I really need to go back and do this again? Can I add something more to the mythology?
Well, when they came to me after Ralph and Billy had signed on, they said, we're bringing you back in episode 10, season 1, and you're going to set up season 2. And I said, why can't I come in on episode 5 or 6? And
set up the ending. Yeah.
He said, then they explained why and blah, blah, blah. But the bottom line was, I said, I really would like to, just as Billy said, I wanted to play this character more interestingly than a stoic bad guy, than a one-dimensional tough guy, as in Karate Kid 1, 2, and 3. And they said they'd write some vulnerability and they'd write some versatility to the character, and they did. I mean, my favorite scenes are when I come back with the trophy in episode 1, season 2, that to me, because, I love working with Billy, and everything, we've been together for such a long time that everything cooks, you know? It's like all those feelings. We're different actors than we were back in, you know, 83. And so you've got so much more to work from. And emotionally, you know, we get in that scene in the shelter where I'm sitting with him and I tell him how tough it's been for 30 years. I mean, we were in tears doing that, you know. And you don't see John Kreese in tears. You don't think of him in tears. But these cats, they wrote it, you know. And so they fulfilled all the things they said they were going to do. And I was very satisfied.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Definitely. Okay, I know I had you in the back there.
So during the white snake scenes where you were dancing with your woman,
Yes.
you keep a straight face.
Oh, yeah, you got to see the outtakes of that we were laughing.
Come on.
I'm going to post that sometime. I have all that footage. It's funny.
Thank you for bringing Coors Banquet.
Yes. Are you enjoying it? Yeah. Really, it's just the whole show is just a big commercial for Coors Banquet.
Right.
That's what it is. Yeah. The Coors is behind this whole thing.
Product placement is key.
Coors get a lot of free press from this, I'll tell you that.
The real man behind Rambo 2, the man who made the Cagney Lacey. Is there any
Wow.
chance in the next season you might find love?
Will Kreese find love?
That would help everything, actually. He needs a girlfriend, man.
I'm afraid, though. What
he
kind
needs
of
to go on
woman
a
would you go
honeymoon.
after, though?
I have a snake collection in my house. You know, no, I really don't.
He needs romance. That'd be,
You know, that'd be
awesome.
great. That was something I did ask for. I said, don't discount to the writers, which doesn't mean anything. I said, don't discount a love affair, and they would nod their head. I mean, we come up with these great ideas, and we never know they're going to use it. I thought of how Cobra Kai got its name, and they took that into consideration because and. We don't really know, but I think it would be wonderful if he found a woman. I cannot imagine.
So now we know why Elizabeth, why she's coming back now.
Right.
What kind of woman, he would find?
She'd be a buster. I mean, a bee buster.
Or she could be very spiritual.
She'd be dominant. She'd own you. Would be awesome.
I hear Roseanne's available right now.
Whips at night. I don't know what. I don't know what.
Where's Sensei? I don't know. Thanks a lot.
Great question.
Yeah.
Okay, you got you. Wait, get you in the back and then you next. Okay? Yeah, stand up.
I got a question. With Pat obviously not being able to be part of this, and obviously if he was part of it, I don't think it would work because the way that Ralph's whole character is really off base with where he thinks in life. But I'm just wondering, what's your favorite Pat memory ever on set?
Oh.
Pat Morita memory ever?
Yeah.
He was awesome. I mean, it was obviously, again, my first film. I met him the day in the back lot of Columbia Pictures, walking with Ralph and Pat to a training session. And I said to him, I loved him on Happy Days. I was a huge fan. And I said, if you see anything I could do different or better or whatever, please tell me. Let me know. And so instantly he became Uncle Pat to me, and I became BZ. And hey, Uncle Patty, BZ, And it was the whole thing was fun because we'd take us out to dinners and we just got bonded. But it was the fence fight scene where Johnny is beating up Daniel at the fence, and it was we did that for a long time. We shot that for a week at least to get it right. But during the rehearsals, I wasn't doing it too hard. I was kind of laying back a little bit, like grabbing him lightly and everything, and waiting, saving it for the camera. And Pat calls me. He goes, BZ, come here, man. He goes, listen, BZ. He goes, man, in your rehearsals, you got to give 110%, baby. 110%, baby. He goes, and that way when the cameras are rolling, it's like bread and butter, man. It's like bread and butter. So I said, all right. So I went out and gave it 110%, and then it's like that scene is just so high octane, and a lot of that is because he tuned me up right then. So as an actor, that was great. And then when we did the tour, the publicity tour, around the world, he was going. We both took different parts of the country, and I was so nervous. Doing this. Somebody was going in, news shows and all this stuff, and he would check up on me every day and call my hotel and BZ, how's it going out there? I'm like, good. And so I felt like I had a comrade, and we stayed friends for all the years up till he passed. We talked every Christmas, every Thanksgiving, and. He actually had an idea for another Karate Kid. He told me about. He's like, I think there's another Karate Kid for Miyagi. Like, I think they need to lay him to rest. No, but he said, I think he's gonna die, and they have to have a proper Okinawa burial. He wasn't finished with Miyagi, and he was a dear man, and we love him and miss him. And I feel like somehow he's a part of this somehow. Same with John Avildsen, who's not with us anymore. Director Jerry Weintraub, who produced it. Jimmy Crabe, the cinematographer from Karate Kid 1. I feel like they're up there, kind of having final say on all this this stuff. So
Yeah, Miyagi's laughing
they're
at
with
a lot
us.
of
The
us.
Spirit of Karate Kid's with us. Yeah. What's that?
Miyagi's laughing at a lot of
Yeah,
us.
Miyagi's laughing. Morita, man, it's too bad he wasn't around for all this stuff. You would have loved him, and he would have just eaten you guys alive. I mean, he was a comedian, a stand-up comic,
Right.
you know. So it was before all the Comic Cons and this kind of a thing. So anyway, great question.
Yeah, great question. The guy right in front of you there.
How often, if at all, do you guys deviate from the written script? And is there a big scene that you two have kind of had input in that kind of changed how they have done it?
I get, as far as deviating from the script, it's as scripted, but we'll challenge lines, we'll challenge some things here and there, and that's happened. It happened last season and this season. I won't get into specifics, but there's things where I'm like, I don't feel this, and the guys listen, and it was always going to be a two-way street collaboratively. So, you know, I always felt like I was a shepherd of Johnny, like I'm the final gatekeeper of what, you know, but that's not true anymore. And there was some scenes that I had to do where I'm like, I went home at night, and I'm like, all right, Johnny's out of my hands. It's not mine anymore. It's these guys, you know, and I'm just going on this ride. But, you know, and then as far as us,
Well, you know, they planned out everything. In other words, in episode 10, season 2, they knew he wouldn't let me do this number in any scene at all, except the last scene where I'm telling him, you made a mistake. You know, you'll thank me for, you know, you'll thank me eventually for this, Johnny. They just knew where they wanted everything. And it was fascinating because we got lucky that there were 3 fans who knew everything about the movie left and right. God knows how many, I've done 4 or 5 television series, and you don't get writers and showrunners that live every moment of your character. And that's why everybody loves it so. When I did the first scene and I walked in and I said, but the real story's only just begun. And it was the first rehearsal. And I walked in there and I had the cigar and I was nervous. I was really nervous. And it was the very first rehearsal and I walked in and where I had to hit on the line, I had to say that line, but the real story has just begun, and smoke. And all of a sudden, I didn't know if I was doing it right. Cut. And I hear from the other end where the video village was in the dojo. You know, all the crew and they finally heard the real Kreese say their words, you know, and I knew I was okay, you know. I knew I was there because they just appreciated who you were, you know.
All right, Nat in the back there.
For both of you, out of the 3 movies, what was your favorite scene?
out of the 3 movies,
Yeah, what's your favorite scene?
my favorite scene is my first scene in the movie of Karate Kid 1 when I come up on the motorcycle. That's just because it was the first shot. Hey, all right, you guys like that too? That was my first scene ever in any movie. So that was just driving up on the motorcycle. That was the first day of shooting the film. That was my first day acting in any film. I'll remember that moment for the rest of my life. So that would be it. And the other one was when I did the spinning crescent kick to Ralph on the fence. Just kidding, Ralph. I know you're watching this.
No, but we watched that very scene. Ralph and I were doing a convention somewhere, and Billy wasn't there, and we were watching. They screened. I think it was in Philly or New York or something, where they screened the movie, and then we were behind the screen watching the movie in reverse, the final scene, and it was so rich, even that we had seen it 20 times. And when that happened, and you know, your favorite part of when you kick, we had chills. And Ralph and I had seen it 20 times because it still worked for us 35 years later, watching it in reverse, from the back of a screen. And it was just so rich. And you know, that ending, I think my favorite business was screaming. I mean, I loved the sweep the leg and wiping his blood scene. And
anything with blood, you like that?
I like blood. But finish him was just, you know, screaming, and that music cue of boom, you know. It was just, you know, silly things like that.
My favorite scene in The Karate Kid is really, and I remember seeing it for the first time, and we just were in character, so I just did my thing, everybody did their thing, but it was in Westwood in the premiere of the movie, and it's when all the waxing and painting pays off, and Miyagi's in the backyard, and he says, "Show!" you know, show me this, show me that. I mean, that was the first time ever that was seen by anybody, and I was right there, and I saw him do it, but with the music and all that, like, I was getting chills, and I was like, this is awesome. You know, I was like, loving it, and then at the very end, I'm like, oh, wait, I know this ends, this isn't gonna go well. I'm rooting for the wrong guy for a second. No.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And the finish him line, do you think Mortal Kombat stole that from you?
Well,
right? The finish him, you guys predated the Mortal Kombat. Finish him.
Well, you know, that line was done. I did it almost under my, you know, low, you know, finish him when we were shooting. And I looped that line loud and, you know, insanely, because John says, go for it. It's the crescendo of the movie. It's you know, everything is on the line for John Kreese. So I just went for it, you know. And we did it in the looping stage. And every time I see it, and that music cue, that boom, you know, as the camera passes. I just love that.
That stare.
It's just what the whole movie's all about.
Yeah.
That competition, you know.
Amazing. All right, I missed this side of the crowd there. Right there, go ahead.
Hi, guys.
Yeah.
Obviously, the first 2 seasons being on YouTube Red, YouTube Premium. Is it a contract you guys have with them? Because I know with all the views, obviously, this could get picked up by one of the larger networks. So are you guys signed on for so many seasons with YouTube, or how does it work?
Well, we're signed on with, our deals with Sony. Sony has a deal with YouTube. So YouTube has the option on the show for, I think, as long as they want it. So they just have to keep renewing the option. Yeah. And they've been awesome. Yeah.
Amazing, great question. Do we have another one over there behind him or no? Okay, perfect. All right, right in the back there. And I come over to you next, okay? And then I come to that side. You guys will be...
As a question for Billy, just curious, when you talk about seeing yourself for the first time in the first movie and how exciting that was, which was more personally gratifying for you, creating that role or behind the camera, co-producing or co-creating most and nominated for an Academy?
Oh, wow. Thanks for even mentioning that. Yeah, I did a short film that was nominated for an Oscar that I produced and wrote. Thank you very much. It's an honor just to be nominated. I'm one of the few people in the world that knows what it's like to not have your name called, you know, and actually you're clapping and smiling, and it was genuine. I was so relieved that I didn't have to go up and say anything, you know?
Really?
Yeah. I was thinking of all the people I had to thank, and I'm like, oh, it's not me, thank you, you know? Like, that. It was on the way home. I'm like, wait a minute. I should have, anyway. But that's two totally different things and two completely different. I went to school before Karate Kid. I wanted to be a filmmaker, so I went to film school. So I didn't go to acting school to become an actor. I was doing commercials, and Karate Kid kind of stumbled on that, and it kind of stumbled into a career in a way. But my heart has always been behind the camera, writing, directing, and producing. So I did a short film, a real quick nutshell. We shot it in Europe, in Prague and in Poland. It took 2 years of my life. I didn't get paid a dime for it. I, in fact, put my own thing into it, and I turned down work left and right. And it was probably the most fulfilling job I've ever had in my life. It was a story I wanted to tell, had to tell. I lived every heartbeat of that. And the difference when I was going to the Academy Awards and I'm walking down the red carpet, right? At the first time I'm doing Karate Kid, I'm at Westwood at a premiere. And there's a break between the time you do your acting and then there's 6 months to 8 months and then you show up somewhere and then it becomes something. There's this big gap of time that you're not involved in it and you just have the memory of acting and now it's this thing over here. But when you're writing, producing, or directing, you're along that. It's like raising a kid and you're like every second you see every single stage of that. So I don't know. I would honestly say that was more fulfilling. And if I could do one of the two again, it would probably be the short film. You know, I also love Europe, so that's partly why. You know,
awesome,
thanks.
Great question. We had one back there, right?
Marty, first of all, I love you. Come through the legend continues as the shadow assassin. What was it like doing Hard Time on Planet Earth, and why did it not make it? It was such a good show.
Well, it was a very interesting series where it was written by the people that wrote The Predator, Jim and John Thomas, and it was a hard-edged show. And here was an alien, it was a good concept, an alien coming down from the stars to do good deeds on Earth and then return up as a revolutionary. But they hired a writer and two showrunners from Mary Tyler Moore and Simon & Simon. And they were very good at what they did, but they didn't write anything with an edge. You know, if you can imagine John Kreese being a literature teacher, you know, it wouldn't work. You know, he would teach English literature. Can you imagine John Kreese teaching English literature? So that's what happened there, and it became a soft show, and it didn't last. We were opposite, I think, Donnie and Marie, and we lost to Donnie and Marie, right? The guys who wrote The Predator lost to Donnie and Marie. So it was one of those shows that you just were at that time of my career. It was right after Cagney and Lacey, right after Cagney and Lacey, and I was still kind of, letting things go and not really objecting to very much, and so that's why that failed, But I really enjoyed that, and it was fun playing a good guy,
Awesome, great question.
Shadow Assassin was great because he was, in Kung Fu, it was the new version of Kung, just some of you don't know, it was Kung Fu Revisited with David Carradine. So we would go up and I'd do the premiere episode every time, and I was his nemesis. I was, the guy in a black Australian duster, and I could disappear at any given moment, and David Carradine could not defeat me. So that's why I liked it. I felt like I was really the hero, and dark, but really the hero. So that was a lot of fun to especially work with David, who I'd done, what did I do? Death Race 2000 with him.
Oh my God.
And it was great to just have fun again together, and it's a shame he went off and died too soon. He was a lot of fun.
Good question. I'm going to start in the back there, and I'm going to work my way around. Actually, I'll go there, come back, and we'll zigzag. What do you got, Spider-Man?
Oh, cool, thanks. How's it playing a father now, and also, do you have kids in real life as well, sir?
I do, yes. How is it playing a father?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, it's awesome. I mean, I have two kids. I have a 9 and a 5-year-old. I also have a godson who's 29 or 28. Wow. Yeah. So so I'm like 35 now. So I've got being there. I was there for my godson when I was much younger, and I went through some stuff with him. He went through some tough times, and I was filling in a way, and I'm his dad, in his heart, and he's my kid in my heart. So there's a lot to draw on from that. And I love, listen, when you get older and you live life, you have a lot more color and things you could bring to a character. And so all my experiences of fatherhood, of course, my heart and soul are my 9 and 5-year-old. And, it's hard. I'm away a lot, like here I am at Niagara Falls yesterday and, FaceTiming from the falls, and now I'm over here and now I'm over there. Like, what are you doing out there? They have no idea. If they saw me here right now, my kids haven't seen The Karate Kid, okay?
Come on.
Yeah. They haven't seen it. They're allowed to. They know I'm in it. It's not like they're not allowed to. It's just that, they saw The Dog Who Saved Summer, though, the one I played the talking Sherman Shepherd. But they haven't seen me in a skeleton outfit beating the crap out of Daniel LaRusso yet. I always tell Ralph, if I was his part, they would have saw it right when they were born. There's your father. Remember that, So it's been a little, but now Cobra Kai's here. They've been on the set. They know Marty. I call him Uncle Marty. They know Pat, all the guys and everything. So, and they're eased into my life, but they have no idea what I'm doing here. Like when I go to work. Dad's a big part of huge. That's really where I want to be.
Great question.
It's all for them. Yeah. So it's easy to love on these kids and be a dad to them, even though Johnny's a little more dysfunctional than I am.
I saw your hand up first, so we'll go to you. No, actually, the girl behind you, sorry.
So, question for Billy. I know you did a couple episodes on How I Met Your Mother, and you played yourself, but when you're first introduced, you're dressed as a clown.
Yeah.
And then you have to fight with Ted to be Barney's best man at the wedding.
Yeah.
I was curious what influence that you had on that role compared to what the writers were telling you, and if you think the whole premise of that was that Barney is he's the real karate kid, and
Yeah.
that kind of influenced the Cobra Kai.
Wow. Yeah, all the above. I don't know if it influenced Cobra Kai, but I think it was one of there's many things that fell in place to make Cobra Kai come to fruition. And one was a music video I did back in A Whale, Sweep the Leg, and Ralph did a funny video called Wax On, Bleep Off, and, Marty did an episode of the Goldbergs. I did this. There was kind of like all these pieces of the puzzle. It was like pop culture was kind of still not done with us somehow in that way, when they called me for How I Met Your Mother, they just called me up. I knew Barney Stinson was a fan of Johnny Lawrence's. and they said, would you like to be on the show? I said yes before I even read the script. They sent me the script, and I'm a clown. There's no dialogue. I'm like, this is to say, you can't even see my face, you know, the whole way through. And then at the end is he, you know, if you haven't seen the show, but it's Barney's bachelor party, and he wants the Karate Kid there. And so Ted and all his buddies get Ralph Macchio. Ralph Macchio shows up. No, that's not the Karate Kid. William Zabka's the Karate Kid, and you know. And then a clown shows up, you know. And then we're all having a fun night at the town. At the end of the show, he says, "Well, you did a great bachelor party, but you didn't get the real Karate Kid." And then the clown says, "I couldn't agree with you more." And off comes the nose, and off comes the wig, and then you know, there's the headband, and it's me, and that was the ending. And that was all it was supposed to be, really, in the whole bit show. And that turned into more. I mean, the response to that show was so great that they wrote me a character as myself in season 9. And I had no input on it, and I taught myself a good lesson. When you're working with those caliber people, that caliber writers and directors and actors, you just say what they write, you know what I mean? It's like, I'm not gonna come in there and be like, I have an idea, you know, for a show that's like 8 years super hit on the TV. So I went in, and they were great, and they wrote a really funny bit for me. I know this, that one of the creators, Craig Thomas and Carter Bays, said, Craig told me at the rap party, he said that he had a dream somewhere in season 2 or 3 of How I Met Your Mother, that he had to wake up and write it, I think, and it was that Barney Stinson saw Johnny Lawrence as the real Karate Kid, and he scribbled that down, and he said it helped them understand the character of Barney Stinson, and that was way back in the beginning, and so they adhered to and alluded to Johnny all the way through up to my entrance, and I thank them because they put me back. I mean, it was like being a baseball player and going, all right, you're back in the bigs, you know, hop off the bench, and you're like, what? Now you're at a table with these amazing, talented actors, superstars, and great writers, and you know, to go toe-to-toe with those guys was awesome. So they really, they brushed me off, and I'm always forever thankful. I just saw Kobe Smothers at the Billboard Awards, and I said the same thing to her. I always thank him for that, so there you go.
Awesome. Great Canadian Colby Smothers.
Yes, that's right.
All right, right in the back there with the mask. I don't know what that, Legion of Doom? All right.
The remake with Jaden Smith, clearly it isn't karate, it's completely kung fu, they admit that it's kung fu. Do you guys think that it even deserves the name karate?
What are you talking about?
The Jaden. Got me.
They did a remake? No, that's not a diss to that. Listen, we were at the premiere to that movie, and both Marty and I, we sat behind the guys that played the version of us, and just stop laughing. You know, it was a good movie, and you know, I don't think it's become a classic in 30 years from now, but it served that generation. I'll tell you a really funny story though. And it's funny that we're working with Overbrook, but at the after party. We went to the after party, and there was Will and Jaden, and Will introduced, oh, Jaden, I want you to meet, you know, this Billy Zabka played Johnny, and hey, how you doing? I know you are. And he goes, I just want you to know, Will's like, I just want you to know, you know, we're just paying homage to the Karate Kid, you know, we're not trying to disrespect it or anything. I said, I know, I get it. I said, I'm doing the same thing with the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I said, it's just me, it's in the valley. I go, but it's it's just an homage. And he goes, he's a great guy. What a heart.
What did you think, Mark?
There were so many people that were up in arms at how dare they can make this movie, how dare, you know, I did a couple of radio shows, and these people, Fox, I forgot the shows, but, you know, they were really uptight, and they would say it, how dare they make that, you know, and you had to actually say, and I think Jerry Weintraub told me, he says, when you go on these shows, you just tell them, calm them down. Because it's a good movie, and it was a good movie, and it made $250 million worldwide. It did well. But the bottom line, it did not compete with Karate Kid 1. It just paid homage to it. And Will Smith was very conscious. As he approached you, he approached me, and he said, did we do your character justice? Yeah, I mean, the guy says no mercy, and it's translated on the bottom, no mercy, and he says it in Chinese. And you and I, we cracked up, with Billy sitting behind me, and I turned around, and you put your hand on my shoulder as he said, no mercy, and we just cracked up.
It was just weird to see what you did. First of all, to find out that making a remake of something you're in is a horrifying feeling, you know what I mean? Right. It's like you're old enough to be in something that's being remade.
Oh, God.
It's like it's being made
you
again.
Put needles in your
and
eyes.
You know, you're like, what? Yeah, but we watched it. Yeah, sure, we were watching it. We didn't read the script, so... Yeah, when they said no mercy in Chinese, it was that. I mean, it was just like, wait, this is too
Right. Nobody reacted.
Too meta.
Yeah, but it paid homage to the film, and it actually put a hunger, I think, and it actually did a service to Karate Kid, because it got people talking about it again and saying, oh, you got to see the original too, to your kids. Like, oh, you got to see this one. And so I think that movie had it. It was great. Listen, Overbrook is Will Smith's company, and they're part of Cobra Kai. So they were the first people. Caleb Pinkett, who's Jada's brother, was one of the first people that they went and pitched it to. And he said, I love it, we love it. And they're 100% on board. Will Smith's part of the show. So we're thankful for them. And it's a great partnership.
Very supportive. They think of John Kreese as Tony Montana, from Scarface. But they're very supportive.
I think we have enough time for maybe 2 questions. So I got you, and I will take you in the back.
Get Miss. She's been waiting.
Oh, I didn't even see you over there.
Let her go
All right.
first.
You go first, okay? Come on up.
You just look like you have a good question. If
Go
it's
ahead,
not
Ray.
a good question, we're going to have you sit down.
Sweep the leg.
I'm just kidding. Yeah, sweep the leg.
I saw you yesterday, we brought you the radio on Monday.
Oh, yes, I remember you. Yes.
I was wondering if Sensei would grace us with the mantra and have us chant it, and Johnny, I was wondering.
Say that a little.
Was
She
the last
wants
part?
Kreese to do the mantra.
How does this to this dojo?
Fear. Oh,
She wants you to say, fear does not exist in this dojo. And
Right.
then we'll end with that. How about that?
There you go,
All right.
yeah. Sound good?
Good question. All
A
right.
good one for us all to end on. All right, so we put it right to John Kreese then, right?
No, we have another question. We're going to
Oh,
do that
okay.
last.
question, and then we'll end with it.
All right, then. There you go. Last one right there.
When you guys read the script for season 2, and you read that Tommy was actually going to pass away and get zipped up in a body bag, what was the feeling? I watched it, and I was like, I had to watch it 2 or 3 times, as if, full circle.
Yeah.
For some
Well,
foreshadowing.
before they wrote it, I mean, they told me about it 6 months in advance. Like, this is what we're thinking about happening to the guys. And they said that Tommy's sick and all that. I was like, oh, man, don't do that to Tommy. But it was right. It worked. And all those guys, they earned a spot on the show. That you never know. Just because Tommy was zipped up doesn't mean you can't see Tommy again. So it was tough. That was a tough one to play and a tough one to do. But Rob Garrison, who played Tommy, is just genius in that episode. And when I read it, was tough to read, though. But that's real life,
I mean, Cobra Kai never dies, and the zipping up.
That's right. He's mostly dead, He's
Like the Princess
little
Bride?
Princess Bride. Yeah, he's
Princess
mostly
Bride.
dead. Season 3 opening thing is a zipper coming down, going,
True love!
Cobra Kai. Never die.
We have one writer who's a little darker than the other two, so his idea was the zipping up as is intercutting with me screaming and yelling, Cobra Kai never dies. And there you have a Cobra Kai dying, but the concept is, of course, that Cobra Kai never dies. Cobra Kai members may die, but Cobra Kai never dies. I thought it was brilliant. Dark, but brilliant,
It was well written. Well written, and some great questions here for you guys. Before we end with the big chant there, how about everybody just stand up and give the applause to these 2 gentlemen that they deserve. Let them hear it, folks.